Good morning. First of all, thank all of you on behalf of the men and women of the TABC and our partners, the law enforcement, for taking time to be here today. My name is Bentley Nettles. I'm the Executive Director, and it's my honor and privilege to serve as the Executive Director for the Texas Alcohol and Beverage Commission. Before we get started, I'd like to recognize some distinguished guests from our sister agencies and other law enforcement agencies. Without their help, TRACE program would never have gotten off the ground. First, Colonel Graham Jones, with the Texas Park Director of Law Enforcement for the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. Joining Colonel Jones is Chief Kevin Davis, who serves as Law Enforcement Chief of Staff of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. We also have Major Chris Davis of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, Criminal Investigation Division, along with Assistant Commander Brent Satsky. Joining us from the Texas Department of Public Safety is Major Ben Urbanzi, is that right?
Close enough.
All right, and of the Texas Highway Patrol, and also Lieutenant Jason Reyes, the Texas Department of Public Safety. I'd also like to recognize our other partners, Texas Municipal Police Chiefs Association and the Texas Sheriff's Association, and also Officer Steve Burris from Irving Police Department. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of TABC, I want to thank all of y'all for your assistance in getting this TRACE program up and running. Finally, I'd like to introduce some members of the TABC's law enforcement staff. Robert Sines, our Deputy Executive Director for Enforcement, and overseeing all the TABC agents and investigators across the state, Chief Victor Kirkendall, the TABC's Chief of Law Enforcement, who handles the day-to-day activities. Okay, raise your hand. Yep. Who directly worked with our partners to get this TRACE program up and going. So about every 20 minutes in Texas, someone is hurt or killed in a vehicular accident involving alcohol. Texas remains one of the worst states for drinking and driving. The TABC and its partners want to help make Texas a safer place. We are doing so by implementing this multi-agency collaborative program, the TRACE program. TRACE itself is an acronym for Target Responsibility for Alcohol-Connected Emergencies. This program is designed to improve collaboration amongst our partners and to allow quick response by TABC to any alcohol-related incident 24 hours a day anywhere in the state of Texas. This program is designed to allow local law enforcement agencies leverage the skills and resources and expertise of a TABC agent related to the Alcohol Beverage Code. For example, in the past, a local police officer is investigating a vehicular incident that involved alcohol in their community. They could request the TABC's assistance. However, often there was a delay in TABC responding and getting a resource on the ground due to notification and then being able to get there in time to do a proper investigation to assist local law enforcement. This delay caused evidence to be degraded and sometimes lost. The TRACE program changes all that. Now, using a special toll-free number set up with our partners, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, local officers can request TABC assistance 24 hours a day. Now, if a law enforcement agent is investigating a vehicular incident and they believe alcohol is a factor in it, they can reach out and use this as an additional tool, call upon TABC resources to assist him or her in their investigation. TABC, unlike other law enforcement agencies in the state, have both administrative and criminal jurisdiction over bars and restaurants and convenience stores, and are skilled in conducting what we call source investigations to determine if the subject was served their last drink, where it was served, and if doing so violated the Alcohol Beverage Code of the state of Texas. Starting today, police officers and our partners can now use the TRACE hotline to request assistance by TABC. That call goes to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Game Wardens Dispatch Center, which is manned 24 hours a day. The Game Wardens then route the information call to an on-call TABC agent in the region, the geographical area where the local law enforcement agency is calling. This allowed TABCs to begin its investigations much quicker while the evidence and the witnesses are still fresh. Through the implementation of the TRACE program, we hope to better serve and protect the public in quickly identifying risk to public safety stemming from violations of the Alcohol Beverage Code. We've been extremely fortunate in our good working relationships with law enforcement, our other law enforcement partners across the state. We work with them each and every day. Our expertise in investigations involving alcohol and licensed businesses. The TRACE program will serve as an additional tool for law enforcement and other law enforcement agencies who can now bring us in immediately. This allows them to better focus on criminal investigations while we handle the source investigation, administrative investigation into the licensed premises where the alcohol may or may not have been sold. As the Executive Director of TABC, I'm very excited about this opportunity and the potential of the TRACE program. This will allow us to work even closer with our law enforcement partners. It will help to ensure Texas licensed alcohol beverage and retailers meet the responsibility for public safety. TRACE would not have been possible without the assistance of our partners in the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department and Game Wardens and the Department of Public Safety. I'd like to turn it over to Colonel Jones so he can make a few remarks. Colonel Jones?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning. First of all, thank you, Executive Director General Nettles, for the partnership. I think this is a great example of state law enforcement and local law enforcement working together on an extremely important issue. Thank you to our host, TABC, as well, and Texas State Sheriff's Association and Texas Municipal Police Officers Association as well. TRACE will make our roads, but also our waterways safer. Texas Parks and Wildlife is extremely proud to be a part of this program. Last year, Texas Game Wardens arrested 162 boating while intoxicated cases, and we found out through our investigations that alcohol played a role in more than 30% of fatal boating accidents in Texas. So again, there's an element to our roadways and there's an element to our waterways, and we're committed to keeping both extremely safe. This is a program I think that all of Texas law enforcement can be proud to be a part of, and I appreciate your time here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Jones. Thank you for agreeing to be one of our partners. And also, of course, the Texas Highway Patrol is one of the agencies who most often investigates DWIs and alcohol-related accidents on the state roadways. And their help was instrumental in getting TRACE up and running. I'd like to invite Major Urbanski to the podium for a few words. Thank you.
Good morning. I'd like to reiterate what the Colonel said about the partnership that we have with TABC. A program like this, with being proactive and taking the lead on this, is extremely important on developing our cases. Every day, on average, 2 persons die in alcohol-related crashes. That means a family won't have somebody, their loved ones, coming home. Having investigated these crashes, I know what a tremendous impact it has on the family for the rest of their lives, and also the officers that investigate these. So because of this partnership, the evidence that we collect at the scene can be developed and further to enhance our cases, which is a tremendous asset in law enforcement.
Thank you, Major Urbanski. As I mentioned, the TRACE program is an important step forward for this state in enforcing the state's alcohol beverage laws. With the assistance of our partners, agencies, and local law enforcement across the state, I'm confident that we'll work to keep Texas a safer place when it comes to the sale and consumption of alcohol. This in conjunction with the TABC's Chairman's Holiday Safety Campaign that is going to be coming out later this month to offer an alternative transportation to those who may have consumed a little bit too much. We'll be able to attack this issue from both ends. But of course, the real key to being safer in Texas starts with each of you. If you drink, don't drive. If you drink, don't vote. That brings me to a conclusion, but thank you all for being here. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Are there a lot of cases that don't get followed up on because it takes too slow?
So the challenge is...
if you don't mind standing by the mic.
Oh, sorry. I'm happy to do that. So I don't know the number of those cases, but I can tell you if we don't get called in within a certain period of time, then it's much more difficult for us to do a source investigation. Because as anything else, over time, the witnesses forget, videos disappear, trying to figure out where they got their last drink becomes very difficult. And that's what our role is, to try to figure out if somebody who was served, if they're a minor, it's more obvious, but then we might not be able to track back to the source of where they got the last drink, or were they intoxicated when they were served. So both are a violation of the Texas Alcohol Beverage Code, and that's what we try to enforce.
And it's hard to prove kind of as time goes on.
Yes.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, please.
Just to add a little bit to that, as a city officer, my job in the last 15 years has been intoxication manslaughter, intoxication assault investigations. The only time that TABC finds out about one of those cases is if I, as a police officer, contact them and request assistance from them. So a lot of times it falls through the cracks, not by, it's deliberate or anything. It's just that the Alcoholic Beverage Commission they're not aware of a fatality investigation or something that's going on unless that responding agency, such as DPS or Parks and Wildlife or a municipal police department or sheriff's office, contacts them and asks them to come in and assist with the investigation, because they're an invaluable tool for our source investigations when we're going, especially like, say, I work in the Irving Police Department, which is the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. But some of the bar locations that the suspect may have been coming from are in Dallas or Fort Worth, which it's invaluable for me to take a TABC agent with me when I go do those investigations, because I'm going outside my city limits and my jurisdiction to try and participate in that investigation and get that to a good closure, if you will.
Can you give us a size of just how many kind of law enforcement officers would be following up on these cases? Like how many people are out there?
So currently we have 180 TABC agents in the field. All of them are qualified to do this. What we're hoping is that we'll once this program gets off the ground, if the number of calls and the demands on the resources increase, then it's a possibility that we'll stand up a special unit just to do these type of source investigations. But right now, all of our agents are qualified to do this, and they're trained. Matter of fact, we're developing specific training and checklists that we're going to roll out, make sure that we reinforce that with our agents. But of course, our agents bring in skills that they also talk about, because unlike other law enforcement agencies, we have administrative jurisdiction. It's a privilege to sell alcohol in the state of Texas. So we can go into any licensed premise and ask for information, and they're required to hand it over, because without it, they become at risk of losing their license. Any other questions? Do I want to add anything?
Can I add one? No, sir. Thank you. Can I add one?
Yep.
My name is Victor Kirknall, the Chief of Law Enforcement at TABC. And in 2017, we had roughly just shy of 400 cases of source investigations that this agency conducted. And because of some of the delays that we received in notifications, we were only able to sustain those cases about 10% of the time. So our goal here for this program, through immediate notification, is to allow us an opportunity to find and detect where those violations did occur and hopefully bring up the sustained rate. And through that, we hope that the licensed entities across the state that are licensed by TABC will recognize that and take extra steps to prevent sales of intoxicated persons, and therefore preventing deaths and tragic incidents on Texas highways and roadways.
And for, just in case somebody sees this and doesn't know kind of the lingo, sustained means just like continue.
We're able to actually confirm that the source of that alcohol was sold illegally.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Have a safe holiday. Thank you.